my beautiful friends, welcome back to another video. I hope you've been keeping very well. I don't know about you, but personally I go through such phases when it comes to the type of meals that I am enjoying. And whilst avocado toast and iced cacao, they stay pretty present in my diet, there are other meals that I will tend to discover or create and then enjoy very frequently until I get sick of them and then I find something else. So with that being said, a couple of months ago I shared a video of 5 vegan meals that I eat every week. Those were 5 vegan meals I was eating every week at that stage, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you another 5 vegan meals that I eat every week, and these are meals that I have been enjoying very much so at the moment. Hello. Hi. What are you doing? So I hope this video will inspire you to try out one of these meals, and maybe it will become something that you can't get enough of for a little while. But yeah, I guess we should just get right on into it. The first thing that we are making today are some almond butter oats. I am not usually a big oatmeal or porridge kind of person, to be honest. I feel like I tend to enjoy more of a cold breakfast, I suppose, but lately I've been absolutely loving these ever since I started adding the almond butter into them. So yes, I hope you love these. Let's get into the recipe. Okay, so to make the almond butter oats, I first of all start with some oats, of course, as well as some chia seeds, and then I also added some flax meal. I'm putting this into a medium-sized saucepan over medium to high heat. I then also added in some soy milk, and I mixed this all together and left it over the heat for about 10 to 15 minutes ish. Then in a bowl I put 1 banana, and then I mashed this up with a fork until it was nice and fine. This is what's going to make the oats nice and sweet, and yeah, I love adding banana into oats. Then I also of course added in some almond butter. So I just decided to mix this almond butter through with the banana, and yes, I mixed this all together. It doesn't need to be super fancy or super well combined or any of that kind of stuff. And then when the oats started to thicken, like you can see on the screen, I then added in the almond butter and banana. If you like cinnamon or any of those kind of spices, you could also add those in here. Personally, not into it, but I appreciate that you probably are. So once the oats got to a nice thick consistency, I removed them from the heat. I topped these with fresh fruit, some hemp seeds, some coconut, and some crushed walnuts, but you should definitely add whatever tickles your fancy. I also added a little bit of extra soy milk afterwards. So easy, so delicious, and something I definitely recommend trying out at home. It's getting really hot here on the Gold Coast, so I have a feeling that these won't last as long in my diet, but once winter comes back around again, I'm sure I will very much so enjoy. Okay, next we are getting into my favorite toasted sandwich. I feel like toasted sandwiches are underrated. Do you think they're underrated? I kind of think they're underrated. And honestly, there is nothing like making an epic toasted sandwich that is just packed full of flavor. Before we get into it though, I do want to quickly say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. You know by now I love Squarespace so much, and I host my own website with Squarespace, and I also use it in other aspects of my work life as well. But yeah, if you're looking to design or host your own website, I definitely highly recommend doing it with Squarespace. Even if I didn't work with them on YouTube, I would still use it because it is that easy. Personally, I'm obsessed with how easy it is to do literally everything, like posting blog posts, super easy, replying to comments on blog posts, super easy, adding products to your store and selling them, super easy, and just designing your website in general, super easy. So if you're looking to start your own blog, launch your own website, sell your products online, I definitely recommend using Squarespace. You can head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/AmandaDux. Use my code AmandaDux. It'll get you 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, which really helps you out. And yes, thank you to Squarespace. I appreciate you. And let's get into this toastie. Oh my goodness, it is so ridiculously good. So as you may know, I'm a big fan of using chickpea tempeh. You can definitely use tofu or soy tempeh here though if you'd prefer. I cut this into 3 slices. You can do 2 or 3. You'll need about that amount, and I put these into a container with some barbecue sauce as well as some olive oil. And I like to do this because then I can put the lid on the container and I can shake it all up to ensure that everything gets nice and well coated. I find it a really easy way to do it. And then I put these in the oven to bake. So whilst these were baking, I prepared the rest of my toasted sandwich. So I got a couple of pieces of sourdough bread. I of course buttered the outside that is going to be going on the frying pan of both of the pieces, and then we start adding the delicious toppings. So first thing we're adding is some sun-dried tomato pesto. You can get this from the supermarket here in Australia. So ridiculously good, packed full of flavor. Definitely recommend giving it a go. Then I also added on some vegan cheese, once again that I just got from the supermarket here in Australia. I then cut some fresh tomato into thin slices, and I put this on top of my cheese, and then I of course topped this with some black pepper because black pepper and tomato are just a match made in heaven. From there, I then added in the tempeh, which I had baked. So I ended up putting 2 pieces on my toasted sandwich. I then also added in some fresh kale that I had washed and drained. And then I'm using some of this cashew cheese, which is my favorite. It's got chives and shallots in it, and I spread this on the other side. So I put this toastie all together. As you can tell, it is a pretty big toastie, and I put this into the frying pan, pressing it down to sort of remove some of that height from it while it cooked. My flip was not graceful, but I didn't lose any of it, and it got nice and golden on both sides, which is exactly what I want from a toasted sandwich personally. This would probably work a lot easier if I had a sandwich press, but I don't. So this is my toasted sandwich. So delicious. I really encourage you to give a toasted sandwich a go. They're so nostalgic and so good, and I just love them. Honestly, even thinking about that toastie makes me need to make one, so I think that's gonna have to be my lunch today. But from here, we're moving into my favorite salad at the moment. I'm a big fan of making a very simple salad for lunch when I'm at home and I'm in a rush, and this tends to be something that I eat frequently throughout the week. So yes, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy as much as I enjoy. Oh my god, this salad is just so good. Okay, so I first of all started with some chickpeas that I had drained and rinsed in a bowl with some olive oil as well as salt and some dried basil. I then also added in some garlic powder as well as some onion powder. This is like my flavor combo that I think just wins with chickpeas. Like, it's my go-to these days, especially the dried basil. So I tossed this all together. I then put it onto a baking tray, and I put these into the oven to bake for about like 10 to 15 minutes, depends on how crispy you would like them. Whilst that was happening, I made a dressing with some olive oil as well as some freshly squeezed lemon. Then I also added in some mustard, some Dijon mustard, which is like my secret ingredient to so many things these days. I just think it adds so much flavor. And I did this in a jar so I could shake it up and get it nice and well combined super easily. Then I'm putting some freshly washed spinach and cos lettuce into a bowl with my dressing and tossing this all together so the greens are nice and well coated. And then I served these topped with the crispy chickpeas as well as some fresh cherry tomatoes and lemon. I really just do love using beans in my cooking, and it becomes very evident when I am filming these videos and I'm thinking about all the things I've been eating recently. I'm like, wow, I love a good bean. Anyway, with that being said, next we are moving into a black bean, rice and corn toasted burrito. Been loving this so much. You've probably seen it in some of my other videos because I'm obsessed with it. It is really quick to make, really easy. You can definitely simplify it even further by leaving some things out if you want something that's even quicker to make. But yes, let's just get into it so you can see what I am talking about. Okay, so I'm first of all starting with a large saucepan with some oil, and then I'm adding in some corn that I got from the can, and I just drained, rinsed, and then put it into the pan. I charred this up for about 5 minutes before adding in my black beans and my adzuki beans and tossing this all together before adding in a couple of cups of cooked brown rice. You can also use microwavable rice here if you would prefer. So then I'm adding in some onion powder as well as garlic powder and some smoked paprika. Then of course I am also adding in some salt, and I am tossing this all together to get the flavor nice and even throughout. this delicious mixture. As you can see, this makes a lot of this mixture. This recipe makes a whole heap of burritos, and it's something that I really encourage you to make throughout, like early in the week, and then enjoy throughout the week, like making your burritos fresh but having the mixture pre-prepared. So on these burritos, I very simply just put some of that cashew cheese, and then I put some bean and rice mixture, roll it all up, as you can see. So I made 3 burritos, but this mixture makes about 6 in total, and I put these in the oven, and while they were in the oven, I made a fresh salsa to go with mine. So I just used some cherry tomatoes. I put these into a bowl, then I also added in some coriander, and I finally chopped this before adding it in. I also then decided to add in some lime. I love fresh lime so much, so I squeezed some lime juice. You could also add chili if you were into it, spring onion if you're into it. I just love a fresh salsa with a toasted burrito so much. And so this is how I serve mine. Super simple and delicious. You could also add guac if you would like to, but yeah, yummy. Honestly, I don't know what I was doing to myself filming this portion of this video so early in the morning, because now I want to eat all of these dinner foods for breakfast, including the lasagna we're about to get into, which is just... I've been having a full moment with lasagna. I don't think that I appreciated it as much as I should have for way too long. And now I'm like fully in there. I love making this lasagna. It's a lentil lasagna with a pumpkin and cashew bechamel sauce. Oh, it is so ridiculously good. Let's just get into it, shall we? Okay, first things first, and we are making the sauce. So I'm starting with 1/4 of a pumpkin, cutting the skins of it off, and then I am cutting it into like cube-sized pieces. The smaller the better, to be honest, because then they're gonna boil quicker for you. So I put these into a pot of boiling water. You need about a medium-sized saucepan over high heat, and once they had boiled away and they were getting nice and soft, I then added in some cashews. You add the cashews in so that they get nice and soft, and they are a lot easier to blend. I love a cashew sauce. I think we know this by now. It is so delicious. I set those to the side to cool, and then it was time to make my lentil mixture. So I started with some oil as well as spring onions and some crushed garlic into a frying pan. I then added in some chili flakes as well as the dried basil that I seem to be using in almost every single recipe at this point, and I fried this up for a couple of minutes before adding in some chopped carrot as well as celery. Then I kept stirring this until it was getting nice and crispy, and then it was time for me to add in my lentils. So I added in like 3 cans of brown lentils here. Went a little bit overboard, but I just love a good lentil, okay? And then I added in some tinned tomatoes as well. You want to get the crushed ones so that the tomato pieces aren't super big, and it's more just like adding flavor and moisture to your sauce. So I kept tossing this together, and then I also added in some more dried basil as well as some salt and pepper, and kept this over the heat for a few minutes to allow it to simmer a little bit. Whilst this was simmering, I decided it was time to keep going with my sauce. So I put in the pumpkin and the cashews into my blender. I use a Vitamix, and then in there I also added in some nutritional yeast, and then I also added in some onion powder as well as garlic powder. Once again, I feel like I use so much onion powder and garlic powder in this video. I then also added in some salt, and then I added in a squeeze of lemon as well as some Dijon mustard. Once again, I just feel like it adds so much flavor just putting a little bit of it in. I also added in some water, and then it was time to blend it all together. You want to blend until it is nice and smooth. If you find your blender isn't blending it well, just try adding a little bit of water in increments. Okay, now it's time for us to prepare the lasagna. So I used some lasagna sheets which I broke up. Started with my first layer of lentil mixture, topped it with some more pasta sheets, some of the pumpkin and cashew sauce, more lentils. Then I also put some vegan cheese slices. If you want like a little bit of extra cheesiness, you can definitely do that here, and topped it with some lasagna sheets as well as some more of the pumpkin cashew sauce, some dried basil and some chili flakes on top. So I put this in the oven. You want to bake it for about like 35 to 40 minutes, and once it's done, it should be looking nice and golden on the top like so. So yeah, I cut into this, I dug into this. I am enjoying lasagna so much at the moment, especially because I always have leftovers which I can enjoy for lunch throughout the week as well. If you try any recipe in this video, I'm gonna say I think this should be the one that you do because it's my favorite. So delicious. I ate the leftovers of this for lunch today and oh my goodness, they were so ridiculously good. There is just something about pasta packed full of flavor. And so that is my lasagna, which is so ridiculously good, and that brings us to the end of today's video. I really hope you learned something from this and I hope you enjoyed. If you do try out any of these recipes at home, make sure to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your creations, and as always, thanks for being here, thanks for supporting my YouTube channel, thanks to Squarespace for working with me on today's video, and I will see you very soon for another one. Bye. Have a good day. Bye.